Yeah, don't mind this line here. It's too far down, but just a test. So if you want to create something like this, then in LightWave you would have to go the bias route. That means that you will create stuff like this in Strand Modeler. That's inside Modeler, not Layout. So you'd create those in Strand Modeler. And as far as I know, the more of these guys you have, the guides you have here in this area, the better the side comb area is going to turn out. For this one, I think I had twice as many of these guides going around. What you will have to do though is that you will have to once you hit OK in Strand Modeler, you'll create a bias, and then you will go to Layout and use that bias. The thing though is that you probably want to mix two fiber effects styles. So will you mix the bias, and then you will create another set of guides, not like this, but you'll create some green guides going here. Then you will go back into Layout and then add those second guides, or that would be first guides because you will use the bias here combined with the second guides. Instead of the second guides, you could also of course add more guides on top of the bias using layout guides, but they are, in terms of twisting and curling them, they are more tricky. So anyway, the main idea here is to combine a bias map and some other guides. One more thing, and that is, remember that it should look like this, so it will end here. Yeah, here you can see actually how many guides I did end up using. Just be sure that it ends. Oh yeah, whenever that happens, that's annoying. I wish they just remove that feature, because sometimes that will happen by mistake, and then you will have to click that circle like 7 times to make it go away, which is totally annoying. But anyway, this area here, just make sure that it ends, that side comb stuff ends right there. And yeah, you might have to use a chamfer in this area to create that kind of line. Right, so remember not to use too many guides for the other stuff. I usually start with 50 guides or something like that, and then I add these other guides manually by hitting G later on. When you see this pattern, poly pattern, pop up in this video, that's whenever I hit G, that will happen. So it lets you select a polygon where you can add the guide. Alright, I think that's it. And because now there's a problem with bias, the bias from Modeler, it can be jittery, so this is best for non-deforming areas, and of course this area here is not going to deform a lot. If it did, then the bias would jitter just slightly, so be aware of that. And also modeler guides are not that fun to operate if you add morphing, but I've talked about that in another video. So if you can, go with layout guides instead for the secondary here. Right, I think that covered it, and you can see actually it created a quite nice line right here. Didn't quite expect that, but that's good. You can also see that I made a hair surface, and then I grew the fibers and the guides based on that. Yeah, long talk, longer than it should have been, maybe. One more thing, and that is the length here. In the end, I control that length on the bias with a weight map. That's the way to do it, really. So you can see that here those guides and fibers are quite a lot longer, but you just end up controlling that with a weight map, so you don't have to worry about the guides being long and all that shebang. Okay, hope that explains some things. I'll add one more thing, and that is if you create other types of hair or fur, then you might want to use other techniques. Either just layout guides, or just bias maps, or just strand modeler guides, or also Crystalline's bias plugin.